We continue our climb to the top of the hockey mountain with the NHL's best clubs, and there is an Avalanche brewing in Colorado that we've got to take a look at. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back, my friends. Happy Friday. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, continuing to bring you all of the offseason coverage that you need to build that winner. Fantasy draft season's just around the corner, Mr. Roden, and we are fired up to continue our top 5 fantasy target breakdown of every single NHL club. We hit the Colorado Avalanche on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Steele, the top of this list is cemented. It's locked in at 1 and 2. We know this. There are a lot of very intriguing players here, almost high-risk, high-reward scenarios with a number of these peripheral Colorado Avalanche pieces that I think there's some questions that need to be answered. So over to you, Landeskog, Nichushkin, Necas, a lot of really good players. Where are you taking them? What are you thinking is going on in Colorado for this upcoming season?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't want to say question marks, but it's definitely a different lineup. And we know with the Colorado Avalanche, they had over 50 players suit up in Avalanche uniform last season. They went through a lot of guys, especially a lot of young guys in the bottom 6 filling in for those injured players throughout the season. And there's a lot of different ways you could go with this at number 5. Agreed. I still think a guy like Brock Nelson brings a ton of value, especially playing in the top 6 in between guys, potentially like Nichushkin and Landeskog. You can kind of go towards maybe the blue line in this situation with Devin Taves at number 5. I think those two guys are honorable mentions for me. Sure. It really comes down to Valeri Nichushkin and Gabriel Landeskog. And these are two players that have struggled with injuries and obviously some outside stuff that we're not going to dive into again with Nichushkin. But you look at their games played over the last few years, Landeskog hasn't played for the last 2 years, except for the 5 in the playoffs. And Nichushkin for himself as well, he's been very, very injured the last 3-4 years. So I actually ended up going with Gabriel Landeskog. I went with him at the number 5 position. I think this is a guy that can still just kind of jump right back into it like he never left. We've seen that happen with a few guys already. But again, he's missed the last 3 years between 2019 and 2021. Obviously some COVID years in there as well. He never played more than 54 games in those 3 years. He was missing out on 25, 30 games a season, but he was still putting up point per game stats, 59 points in 51 games, 52 points in 54 games. The peripherals are really good as well. Over 150 shots in that time, 94 hits, 35 blocks. I think that will increase obviously as he gets more games played. The same is said for a guy like Valeri Nichushkin over the last 2-3 years. Actually, his entire career at this point, he has not managed to play 82 games ever. He has always been somewhere between 50 to 60 points. Those are huge factors. Yep. So those guys would be at number 5 for me. I went with Gabriel Landeskog. Like I said, he hasn't played since the 2022 Cup run. He's missed the last 2 years with the multiple knee surgeries. In his last full season, like I said, 59 points in 51 games, 18 and a half minutes of ice time, over 100 hits. Again, he's excellent in those multi-category coverage. The risk factor, like you just said, is the Avalanche will likely manage his minutes at the very beginning. I know he came back into the playoffs and he was, he had 4 points in 5 games. He was very good. He could also start on the second line. He could also be on the second power play unit, which becomes a riskier factor. You have to take that into the equation as well. I think when you look at a guy like this, especially in banger leagues, if he's good, if he's gold, if he's healthy, hits, penalty minutes, again, the production he gets, to me, this would be a late round stash in your fantasy hockey draft. I still see potential of 60-point upside and very solid peripherals. To those two guys, it just comes down to health reasons.
I think you nailed it with your comment right off the jump. There are a lot of question marks in Colorado for me this season. And let's not forget, they fell short against the Dallas Stars in 7 games, going through the very player that they traded away in Mikko Rantanen. So if that's the measuring stick, which I would say the Dallas Stars are very, very much going to return to Stanley Cup threat realm that we talk about on the regular this upcoming season, then there are question marks in Colorado. And you hit the nail on the head again with all of the roster turnover. There has been a lot of new faces. And let's also not forget Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood in the cage. That's a whole new goaltending tandem. I'm going to get to Mackenzie Blackwood and how I feel about him. I'm really loving these moves, but it's still the fact remains this is a team game and chemistry comes into play. And most definitely when it comes to fantasy production, another question mark that I'd like to talk about because I totally agree with both of these players at the 5 slot. So I don't think we need to touch on either of them. I'm going to throw in Arturi Lehkonen into that honorable mentions list. He might make that perfect stream option week to week on a flyer, even a waiver wire ad if you're looking for some offensive boost in your forward group. He's been banged up, but he can score some big goals. Marty Necas is another question mark for me, Steele, in terms of can he reproduce what he did last season? Last year, I know our boy Blake, shout out to Apples and Ginos, he was all over Marty Necas headed into last draft season. But when you look at numbers that previously 41 points, 40 points, then up to 71, down to 53, and then out of nowhere, he pops 83 points. I would say a question mark is, can he repeat that production? I'll turn that over to you, but he comes in at my 4 slot, and that's because I'm going to gush on Mackenzie Blackwood just a little higher up on this list because you know how I feel about goaltenders.
Sorry, just to make sure you had Martin Necas at number 4.
Correct.
Yes, okay. And I can't disagree with it too much. I understand the reasoning behind it. I'll explain from my perspective why I would have him a little bit higher on this list. I think we just switched Blackwood and Necas. I have Blackwood at number 4. For me, and my reasoning for him being here is because he has been a perennial backup goaltender his entire career. However, he had an incredible season with the Colorado Avalanche in his first full season with them. He was traded at the beginning of the year, so I wouldn't say full season, but he still, however, played 56 games between the San Jose Sharks and Colorado Avalanche. And even in the first 17 games with San Jose at the beginning of the season, he had a .909 save percentage, a 3.00 goals against average. He actually finished the year with a .912 save percentage and a 2.55 goals against average. He had a 22-12-3 record with the Avalanche. I thought he was really good in the playoffs, even though the save percentage was below 900. I thought he made some excellent saves. He kept them in the round against the Dallas Stars, going the distance as well. I think Mackenzie Blackwood, especially where NHL.com have him ranked on their top 200 players. I believe he is number 24th on this list. Martin Necas is actually 32nd on this list, so he is below him. There's things to like about this player, and I'm going to leave it at that. The stats speak for themselves. I'll throw it over to you for after the break to explain why he comes at number 3 for you. But yes, I think this is a really good goaltender, and I don't know. We're going to have to do a top 10 goalies breakdown for us going into the month of August. Most definitely. Might be somewhere at the 9 or 10 position. I gotta break it down goaltender wise. He's probably in the top 10 though.
In my opinion, he's definitely in the top 10. NHL.com, which I'm going to disagree with. So he falls somewhere in between where NHL.com has him and where you have him. They have him still on their top 25 fantasy goaltenders list. Connor Hellebuck 1, Andre Vasilevsky 2, and Mackenzie Blackwood at 3, ahead of goalies like Jake Ottinger and Sergei Bobrovsky. I think is definitely an egregious error, but I would say he falls into, in my opinion, I'm going to throw him in at 7, 8, maybe 9. He definitely is top 10 because of how good this team is. Let's continue to talk about it right after the break. We're going to continue our breakdown of every single team in the NHL. We're now into the top 7, baby. There are some elite pieces that you want on your team. We're going to have mock draft Mondays, all September long and more content to make sure that your team is ready to get that loot. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is way more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Steele and I have been using it almost every single day to stack this paper. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Flip Livingstone, Steel Road, and share with your friends and family out there. We appreciate all that love and support. Over to you, my friend. Tell us why you have Mackenzie Blackwood at number 3 on this list.
So let's be honest about this Colorado Avalanche team. And as much as I did say, I don't know whether they have what it takes to go through a team like the Dallas Stars, or, you know, on their best day, are they still neck and neck with a team like the Winnipeg Jets? I think so. But I would also say, Steele, that they are most definitely going to still be one of the top 3 teams in that Central Division. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do finish in first. I don't know what happens after that. But what I'm trying to spit out here is that means their number 1 goaltender. And yes, you are right. I can't disagree that his whole career he has been a backup. But he is now the number 1 guy, and he is proving it. You mentioned the numbers, but the team's numbers are going to prop him up. This team had a lot of offensive firepower going for it. They finished 6th in the NHL in goals for. They finished 9th in power play proficiency, and I believe they were about 12th with the penalty kill. They're really good at both ends of the ice. The blue line is balanced. And then you look at Mackenzie Blackwood's underlying numbers and even some things like back to where he was drafted. 42nd overall, he's got the caliber, he's got the tools, and now he's got the team in front of him. When I put all of those things together, at the very least, this guy might be top 5 in terms of wins. If he can continue to bring those other statistics, I could see him creep a little higher on this list. And I just think we're also remembering or forgetting that he is a really good goaltender. The name doesn't mix, especially with those other ones that we put out there, Ottinger and Bobrovsky. I would still put ahead of him. But in my opinion, he comes in at 3 on this list. He is going to be a very valuable goaltender that I am going to be super happy with being on my club.
Yeah, I think anyone would want Mackenzie Blackwood on their team, especially with playing with the Colorado Avalanche. So I can't disagree with you having him at number 3. I had to go with an offensive weapon and Martin Necas at number 3 for me. And again, this just comes back to preference for us. You know, goaltenders is a big thing for you. Peripherals is a big thing for me. Martin Necas, when I look at what he is getting himself into now in Colorado, I think the sky is everything. You know, the potential is right there in the sky. So he can keep growing and growing and growing. He's going from a middle 6 group in Carolina to a top line / right wing in Colorado, which means way more ice time, which we already saw. He went from 18 minutes of average ice time up to 20 and a half minutes of average ice time in the regular season between Carolina and Colorado. You also look who he's playing with, and this is not any diss or disrespect on guys like Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho, but he gets to play with Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Nichushkin, Gabriel Landeskog now. The better line mate situation, being able to play with, to me, the number 1 fantasy hockey option, and Nathan MacKinnon.
And we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that, is surpassable of why he comes in at number 3 on this list. He's getting first unit power play exposure, top line power play exposure for a former top 12 overall pick with untapped upside, which he is going to his first full season with the Avalanche now. A guy who has typically hovered around 55, 65 points, but has put up 2 seasons in the last 3 years of 71 points in 82 games and then 83 points in 79 games. There is potential for him to continue to do that and finish somewhere between 70 to 80 points. That's where I would have him at, because
Okay.
He gets to play with a playmaker, a speedster in Nathan MacKinnon, a guy in Cale Makar who really does it all on both ends of the ice. Again, there might be some risk factor potentially if he doesn't mesh well, but he's already played 30 games in Colorado. He played in the playoffs. I thought he was fantastic. You could see some line mixture as well, but take into consideration, the Avalanche traded Mikko Rantanen for him. I'm not saying they traded for him, but they got him in return. So they're betting big time on this guy to produce, and he already has. So I like him at number 3. I think you could see a high side 80-point potential from this player.
And let's not forget, you kind of alluded to it, the power play value with a player like Necas, if you are in that categorical style league that has it, 37 power play points for a very shifty, crafty forward who clearly had a career year last year. Let's see how that translates into a full season, because we've kind of touched on all the major points here that I wanted to talk about that are kind of in between the ears for this team, the roster changes, what Landeskog can do, some of these banged up guys, are they going to be in the lineup? Is the Rantanen effect on a full season? We saw how good he was going up against his former team and how much he meant to the Dallas Stars. What is Mac Daddy going to do without a full year of his former wingman? Do I think it's going to impact his overall value? No, I don't. But what does it do for this Colorado Avalanche team? Because Mac Daddy is bringing the heat all day long. I'm going to hear your argument on him at the number 1 spot, which is a very good one. I'm not saying this is out of left field. We also have to talk about Cale Makar, which I'm ready to do so whenever you are.
Yeah, let's get to it right now. We got a little bit of time before the break. We can also talk about him after the break too. Cale Makar comes in at number 2. He's on number 2 for both of us on this list. And look, he's an absolute unicorn of a defenseman. And he's, we talk about MacKinnon and McDavid kind of being like, I believe they're in the same tier. One's a little bit better than the other, but they're in the same tier. Cale Makar is in a tier of himself. Like, he is by himself. And I don't want to say there is a steep drop off between him and the next guy, who is probably Quinn Hughes, but there is a clear gap between what they can do fantasy hockey wise. And look, I don't even believe I had Quinn Hughes top 5. I can't remember. I don't know if I had him in the top 5.
You had him at like 6 or something, 7.
I'm going to pull that up right now just to make sure, but there is a clear gap at where the next guy in line as a defenseman fantasy hockey player is behind Cale Makar. I actually had Quinn Hughes at number 7. So that goes to speaking how I view peripherals with Dahlin, Werenski, Weegar, Sanderson. Again, we can talk about that at a different time. But Cale Makar, number 2 on this Avalanche targets list, back-to-back 90-plus point seasons. He is probably the only defenseman in the league right now with 30-goal upside. I mean, we haven't seen that in a very long time.
It's so true.
And he did it this last year. 30 goals, 62 assists. No other defenseman offers his offensive ceiling really outside of Quinn Hughes. And even Quinn Hughes doesn't match up to what he does peripherally. So I look at Cale Makar. He's an absolute unicorn out there. Top power play time. You look at this guy, he's getting over 25, 26 minutes of average ice time. He's putting up over 130 blocks. He's putting up 50 to 60 to 70 hits as well. He's getting over 230 plus shots. He's an absolute unicorn out there. And he's still only 26 years old. This guy, he could really put up 30 goals, 70 assists this next season and over 100 points. He's that good.
I appreciate the term unicorn being used so frequently, because what also really stands out, Steele, he's got a cup already. He's got 2 Norris trophies, a Conn Smythe, a Calder. He's been at the Four Nations, and he is a game-changing impact player at both ends of the ice. And I wanted to throw this out so we can all agree in whatever order MacKinnon, McDavid, Draisaitl, those should be the first 3 players off the board in fantasy leagues, regardless 100%. Of formats, in our opinion. I think that's pretty safe to say. After that, you're going to throw in the Kucherovs of the world, but I wouldn't be mad if Cale Makar is the 4th or 5th player off the board. Are you still going to put Kaprizov, David Pasternak, maybe Austin Matthews right in that kind of realm as well? Yes. But if Cale Makar is around in any draft after the 4th, 5th, or 6th spot, I am jumping all over him, and that's a mistake. This guy is the best player at the position. Not only is he that impactful for them in the standings in terms of winning games each and every night, he is that important and impactful for your fantasy hockey team. And you made an excellent point about how often we have to break down categories and go, here's the echelon, here's the second tier, so you guys know what to do when draft season comes. When you are able to say with as much assurance and confidence that we are still that this guy's number one, go after him. He's going to have another huge year. Let's talk about another player who will do the same right after the break.
Nathan MacKinnon, Nate Dogg, do you take him number one or do you take McDavid in his place? We'll talk about that after the break on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Friday episode of Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with your boys here, Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden. We appreciate you out there. We love you out there. Share with your friends and family. The subscribe button is right there below. Hit it. The follow button, hit that one as well, and leave a 5-star review if you've got a minute to spare. We appreciate it out there. Thank you so much. Flip, over to you, my friend. Sure. Nathan MacKinnon comes in at number one, obviously, based on the Colorado Avalanche list. I know we go back and forth about who you take number one overall in your fantasy hockey draft. Is it McDavid? Is it MacKinnon? I want you to kick us off here first on this debate. MacKinnon, number one. Give us the reason why he comes in over Cale Makar, but also why you would probably take McDavid over him.
For the sake of this conversation, most definitely he comes in at number one over Cale Makar, and that's no anything against Cale Makar. This guy has led the NHL in back-to-back years in shots on net. Last year, he led the NHL with 84 assists, and the previous year, he had 89 and still didn't lead the league because of what McDavid and Kucherov were doing in the Apple department. But those were historically good seasons, and he just fell just short of that. We need to really pay attention to. This is one of the best players of this generation, and he is a fantasy hockey dynamo. Why I'm going to take Connor McDavid over him is, in my opinion, and this is like, we say splitting hairs in the fantasy game. This might be the ultimate splitting hairs conversation. So what I will say is, in my opinion, the offensive upside in terms of dynamic 5, 6, 7-point nights is Connor McDavid, but that might be the only angle that I can come up with, because peripherally, shots on net, physicality, you're probably going to get me in all of those angles. So what I'll just say is I'm going to stick to that elite, magical McJesus upside as why I would take him. And I do still think when the careers shake out, there will be a lot more categories that Connor McDavid leads in. However, this is one of those conversations that a lot of what has to do with the team around him and the influence on his 100%. Production is 100%. What will come down to who is that top dog at the end of the year. But shout out to Mac Daddy, man. One of the best of the generation and one of the best that I've ever seen play.
He's absolutely incredible to watch. NHL.com, they got it right. They have MacKinnon at number one and McDavid at number two.
That's okay.
Take that however way you want to take it. But okay. Nathan MacKinnon for me is the number one guy, and he has been fantasy hockey-wise.
You've been saying it for a while, so.
I've been saying it for a while. For the last 3 years, I truly believe, at least 2 years now, I truly believe Nathan MacKinnon has been the top guy that you want on your fantasy hockey team. And like you said, we're splitting hairs here. But with me, with Nathan MacKinnon, I think there is the potential every single season to get anywhere between 40 and 50 goals, which McDavid, again, is more of a playmaker. Not saying that in any disrespect whatsoever, but you're also getting that from Nathan MacKinnon on a yearly basis as well. Back-to-back seasons of 84-plus assists, back-to-back seasons of anywhere between 30 to 50 goals as well. He's always going to be putting up 30 goals. You look at what he does, like you just said, especially the last 2 years, he's been very durable. Played all 82 games 2 seasons ago. He's probably been at his healthiest the last 2 seasons, and he's a play-driving monster. He led the league in individual scoring chances and shot attempts per 60 last year. Even without Mikko Rantanen, him centering guys like Martin Necas, Landeskog, Nichushkin, MacKinnon, it's absolutely, those guys are still elite talent. So obviously he loses a top guy and Mikko Rantanen, a guy who he's played his almost entire career with. he's going to be still putting up points because he is a force to be reckoned with, and he drives the offensive zone.
It's a fact.
He's going to be very consistent of 95 plus points each season, which he has done the last 3 full years, where we've seen him put up over 100 plus points consecutively. Now the last 3 years, he's put up 90 plus points before that as well. To me, he is the number one guy you want on your fantasy hockey team. McDavid is right there with him. Could go number 1, could go number 2. I'm going to take Nathan MacKinnon in this situation. He gives you elite contributions, goals, assists, shots, power play points, and even face-offs, if that is a category of yours as well. So I'll leave it at that. But again, this is probably the closest we'll get to splitting hairs on this podcast.
That's a fact. I'm getting a little antsy here, Steele, because the NHL window for training camp is going to be here before we know it. You know, I alluded to it off the top of the episode. Those GMs that are out there digging in the trenches now, ready to go for September when those drafts start to fly, those are the GMs that are going to be at the top of the table come April. So keep it tapped right here to the pod.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NHL Podcast, because there is no offseason, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter the most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And once again, good luck with all those summer bets. We appreciate you out there. We love you out there. And stay tuned in for next week, Monday's episode.
Peace.